Declassified British files highlight the little-known aspect of the joint MI6-CIA coup against Iran in 1953. That is the covert action in supporting radical Shias like the predecessor of Khomeini, Ayatollah Kashani. This is covered also in Stephen Dorrell's MI6 book. Is anyone else talking about this? I don't understand. Is anyone else talking about this? By the way, Alex did talk about this. To Lord Voldemort's credit, he actually did say, "Overthrow the Mossadegh." They put Ayatollah in. Okay, well, put Ayatollah in. I talked to a Jewish guy one time, and he said, Jews in Iran think that if you lift up the Ayatollah's beard, it says made in Britain. I'm serious. So this is after, this is not just the Shah, right? Everybody knows about the CIA putting the Shah in and getting rid of Mossadegh. No. After that, when the Shah was a failure, it's like, well, wait a minute. He sucks. In the early 1950s, Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, BP as it is known now, was run out of London. It controlled Iran's main source of income, which is oil. In effect, it was an oil imperium, everything that we've been talking about today. Iranian nationalists objected to the fact that IOC's revenues were greater than the Iranian government, so they were angry about the cut. Did you not hear me an hour ago? I just said all the same stuff to you. Britain's ambassador in Tehran, Sir Francis Shepherd, had a typically colonial take on the situation. By the way, I'm not a social justice loser who thinks that all colonialism is some oppressive thing. I'm not a leftist, but I read all of these people right and left. That's why I have a better analysis. He added the need for Persia is not to run the oil industry for itself, but it's for the profit of the West. In May, Mohammad Mossadegh implemented the bill. This led to the overthrow. Following the well-worn pattern of installing and backing monarchs, British officials were keen on a non-communist coup d'etat for the Shah. This would hopefully put in an authoritarian regime. The ambassador in Tehran would thus be a dictator who could carry out what the West wanted, right? The military strongman was General Zaidi, and we talked about him in the past. We've covered all these books. I've lectured through these books, you guys, for you. He was a figure who had been arrested by the British for his pro-tiny mustache man activities. I'm going to skip past the Mossadegh stuff. Everybody knows this. By 1952, MI6, together with the CIA, overthrew Mossadegh, installed the Shah. We know that. But a lot of people don't know the sequence after this. So after this comes the era of Ayatollah Kashani. And I have lectured on this and through this in Devil's Game. Devil's Game covers this in detail. Secret Affairs covers this as well. I believe Secret Affairs covers it. But even if it doesn't, this is the author of Secret Affairs right here, Mark Curtis. The most important religious figure in Iran was the 65-year-old Shia cleric Ayatollah Kashani. He had helped German agents in Persia in the 40s. He later helped and found the unofficial Iranian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, which, by the way, would immediately connect him also to British intelligence because the Muslim Brotherhood was pretty much a British intelligence operation. And that is covered in detail in this book, the first few chapters. It's also covered in detail in this book. This was the Fadayan, a militant fundamentalist organization. The Fadayan was involved in a number of Terror attacks against the Shah. And in 1951, it appears that Ayatollah Kashani broke from that organization. In the 1950s, Ayatollah had become a speaker in the Iranian parliament, the Majlis, a key ally of Mossadegh. The U.S. intelligence report noted that, like Mossadegh, Kashani had a large popular appeal and strongly supported the National Front's policies of oil nationalization and getting rid of British influence in Iran. However, by 1953, relations between Kashani and Mossadegh became strained. And in that year, Mossadegh dismisses Kashani from being a speaker. Tensions thus were ramped up and stirred up by British agents in the country. So British operatives intentionally wanted to foment this divide between Ayatollah Kashani and Mossadegh. These were the Rashidian brothers, who came from a wealthy family that had connections to the Iranian royals, thus the Shah. Instrumental in securing the Shah's endorsement for this coup, the Rashidians also acted as go-betweens between army officers distributing weapons to rebellious tribes and other Ayatollahs, as well as to Ayatollah Kashani. In 1953, riots break out in Tehran, and the pro-Zahidi supporters attack Mossadegh's residence. Oh, guess what? That's from what book? Stephen Dorrell, the book I just mentioned. Covered all this. Kashani had potential for attracting Iranian Street, had noted that the British Foreign Office noted his ability to help engineer demonstrations. British payoffs also secured the cooperation of the senior army officers, mullahs, merchants, etc. British intelligence money and operations behind the mob. This mob had been financed by Ayatollah Kashani, acting in collaboration with British intelligence operatives and spies. The mullahs came to power through British intelligence and the CIA. So, and this makes perfect sense, right? If the Shah didn't work out, well, then we'll go with the next people. We'll co-opt and utilize the next likely operatives. These forces were to seize control of Tehran, preferably with the support of the Shah, and to arrest Mossadegh and his ministers. British also operated agents in the two-day party who were involved in organizing false flag attacks on mosques in the party's name. CIA officer Richard Cottam later observed that Britain saw the opportunity and sent people we had under our control into the streets to act as if they were Tudeh. Tudeh was the Communist Party in Iran. They were more than just provocateurs. They were shock troops. They acted as if the Tudeh were throwing rocks at mosques and priests. I'm talking about priests. Mullahs? There's no priests. All of this was intended to frighten Iranians into believing that a victory for Mossadegh would be a victory for communism, and thus it would increase Tudeh's political influence. Secret history of the coup plan was drawn up by CIA officer Don Wilbur and published in the New York Times in 2000. It relates how the CIA agents gave serious attention to alarming religious leaders in Tehran by issuing black propaganda in the name of the Tudeh Party. In 1953, the Foreign Office, Alan Rothney, wrote to Anthony Eden to discuss with the head of the CIA, Walter Smith, the possibility of dealing with Kashani as an alternative to Mossadegh. The initial coup plan to bring Kashani to power was thwarted when Mossadegh, being warned of the plot, possibly by the Tudeh Party, arrested officials plotting with Zahidi and they set up roadblocks in Tehran. This caused the Shah to panic and flee abroad, where he would stay until he was restored to power as an absolute monarch. In order to trigger a wider uprising, the CIA turned to the clergy and made contact with Kashani via the Rashidian brothers. Footing the bill for this joint Anglo-American operation, the U.S. gave Kashani $10,000 to organize massive demonstrations in Tehran. So, are you noticing that this is more complicated than what you usually hear? So the Ayatollahs are being funded by British intelligence and the CIA to help overthrow the Shah. I mean Mossadegh, excuse me. CIA also helped to mobilize militants of the Muslim Brotherhood. It is not known if Britain also did. I'm sure they did. According to Iranian officials, Khomeini, then a follower of Kashani, was among the MI6 CIA-sponsored crowd protesting Mossadegh in 1953. Who tells you this, by the way? Whoever talks about this stuff. Muslim Brotherhood in Iran, the Fadayan members would act as the foot soldiers of the Islamic Revolution in 1979, helping to introduce the wholesale introduction of Islamic law in Iran. Thanking Kashani. After Mossadegh was overthrown, the British received a report from the new Iraqi ambassador that the Shah and Zaidi together visited and kissed the hands of Kashani. Thank you for restoring the monarchy. The Shah soon assumed all powers and became the dictator, preferred by the Brits. Kashani, however, this time fades from political view until after 1953, but he acts here as Ayatollah Khomeini's mentor, and Khomeini was a frequent visitor of Kashani's home. Kashani died in 1961, but that would start the rise of Ayatollah Khomeini's long rise to power. The British were playing all sides. Do you understand? This is the key to understanding this. Who's on the good side, the bad side? It's the British playing all sides. And by the way, the West, CIA, it's the Atlantis power structure playing all sides. The British were playing all the sides. They were dealing with the Muslim Brotherhood, the mullahs, and the army and the royal families. British elites had financed the deals with the mullahs. They would find the most important ones and help them. They would bring suitcases of cash, give it to them. In the bazaar, the wealthy merchants. So it's a British financial buy-off empire. Same thing the CIA does. Like they would just bring Hamid Karzai and his brother. They would just bring suitcases of cash and gold and just give it to them. That's how you control Afghanistan. Just bring them a suitcase of cash. Made in Britain. In her memoirs in the 1980s, the Shah's sister, Ashraf Pahlavi, said that the whole thing had been made in Britain. Although that's exaggerated because it was also made by the CIA, Operation Ajax, Kermit Roosevelt. During the 1951-3 coup planning, Kashani was seen by the British as too much of an anti-Western liability to be an ally, but his forces were used to help bring the Shah to power. (1979) revolution. Turns out, why is the CIA having such extensive conversations with the Ayatollah? Interesting. Ayatollah Khomeini founder of the Islamic Republic, the man that called the United States Great Satan, would send secret messages to Washington. In the first message, Khomeini told the Khomeini told the White House not to panic, that they would not lose the strategic ally of the last 37 years. You will see that you're not in any particular animosity. So he doesn't want to lose oil deals with America. But Khomeini couldn't say that publicly because he's publicly calling America the Great Satan. So, what do you know? Documents show a more nuanced view than what Carter claimed. Only 2 days after the Shah departed Tehran, the U.S. told Khomeini, the Khomeini envoy, that they were open to the idea of changing the Iranian constitution, effectively abolishing the monarchy. They gave the Ayatollah a key piece of information. Iranian military leaders were flexible. So in other words, the U.S. is already trying to make deals with Ayatollah. And by the way, throughout this time period too, there's still money, weapons, funding that is coming from the U.S. to the supposed enemies, the Iranians. This was not the first time that Khomeini reached out to Washington. In 1963, the Ayatollah was emerging as a critic of the Shah, and this is getting into what we just saw with Kashani, right? His mentor, Ayatollah Kashani, was also directly working with British intelligence CIA, so it's not surprising that Khomeini would have these connections. Recently, a declassified document reveals that in 1963, Ayatollah Khomeini sent rare messages of support to JFK. What? I thought it was the Great Satan. What do you mean? Khomeini apparently thought that British and American support would be necessary to balance out against the atheist Soviets during the Cold War. He needed the support of Christendom, apparently. So a lot of times what's out there for the public is not what is secretly being transmitted amongst the embassies and the intelligence cables. But this is not a conspiracy website. This is just mainline BBC. So, and by the way, I think, this point right here, I think this is covered. It's been 10 years since I read Devil's Game. I think there's a whole chapter on this in this book. U.S. had extensive contact. This is the Guardian being even more emphatic than the BBC. This is not just a few messages. This is actually extensive contact. Documents seen by the BBC suggest Carter administration paved the way for Khomeini to return, holding the army back from launching a military coup. This might be what's mentioned in the Devil's Game book. Now, I talked about this 10 years ago when this stuff came out and I read the Dreyfus book. Do you know how many people called me crazy and dismissed, hand-waved everything I said? I'm like, dude, I'm reading it from here. What do you mean? You just learned about all this yesterday. Dude, I've been talking about this for over 10 years. What are you talking about? Let's see when we first covered Devil's Game and Mark Curtis. $10 years ago.
I forget which.
10 years ago. Right here. This is both books. Devil's Game and Secret Affairs. 10 years ago. Can you see this? Do people see this? Can you read? You didn't really cover it. You faked it. That's fake. You didn't cover that in 2015. It's just that all the stuff we were talking about was way ahead of the curve, and people are just now figuring out on a large scale the stuff that we figured out and talked about 10, 15 years ago. Here, if you doubt me, go listen to it. Right here. So does anybody have questions or issues or topics related to this today? I'd like to talk about some of this. I mean, I don't mind talking about theology. It's just like, can we have a day where we don't talk about theology every day? We all know. I mean, guys, come on, man. Roman Catholicism is cooked. Corey, $5. Does the war in the Middle East have anything to do with Committee 300? I mean, I think Committee 300 is basically correct in its premise, but I mean, I think John Coleman would say that it's engineered to bring in New World Order, right? Technocracy. So if there is going to be a world war right now, World War III or IV, however, if you count the Cold War as World War III, if there is going to be that, it's for the longer purpose of installing Skynet technocracy. So if everything gets obliterated or something like that, there's a plan for the technocracy, but they have to be careful too, because I mean, how are you going to have a technocracy if everything gets obliterated? You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know if this is actually going to become a giant world war. I don't know if this is just a regional conflict. We don't know. It's also hard to know now with AI, like how many of these things are real images and they're not AI images. You know what I mean? It does look like the Israeli power plant thing is real. So they really did Israel in Israel. When you see pictures like this, though, it's hard to know if that's real or not. The son of the Shah, he looks just like the Shah. So the son of the Shah is defending the Israeli attacks, which is funny because like the Shah was the puppet of the West, of the CIA and British.
You actually saying then that Israel bombing your country, civilians in Iran being killed, is a positive thing?
I'm not saying that the targeting was meant to hurt the Iranian people. The targeting was meant to basically neutralize the regime threat. Clearly, I don't think that it was an intention of the Israeli government to attack Iranian civilians.
Are you?
Yes, the super chats are coming through. It's just I'm trying to cover a lot of things, information, and talk about the super chats too. How fart channel, $3. Some Christians claim Mary was a perpetual virgin. Others say no. Both Christians worship God, not Mary. Why does it matter? Because to properly worship God requires all of the Orthodox teachings, not part of it. And Protestants do not correctly worship God. They don't have a Eucharistic offering or sacrifice. They have a mental, notional idea of worship. And Protestants do not have the correct doctrine of the Trinity, the correct doctrine of grace, or the Incarnation. Floridoxy 99, $3. Who do you think the big AC will be? Antichrist? I mean, we don't know who Antichrist is. We don't really speculate. I mean, it's going to be obvious. When the final Antichrist comes, it's going to be obvious who it is. We don't have to speculate. Like, how many people are going to be, like, worshipped by the world, and then declare no, there is no God and persecute Christianity? I mean, it's going to be pretty obvious when that person's there. McKenna K, $10. This is my first donut chat with more to come. Jay, glory to God. Thank you. Yeah, donations, you can do those through Super Chats, or you can do them through Streamlabs. If you do it through Streamlabs, you get Oh, I see what's happening. YouTube. So we have to come over here for the alerts for super chat alerts. That's what it is. So here you go. So here's Rachel's. There we go. Don't worry about people who just learned this. They are just JQ purity test people. They think you're not based if you don't spend every day talking about. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I've been dealing with that for like 10 years. Pope Biscuit $3, but you're correct, Rachel. What's the best outcome for Israel and Iran? I mean, the best outcome is literally just Jesus. There's like no hope for anybody anywhere, any of this stuff without Christ. Without Christ, it's war, chaos, death, and destruction because you default to getting satanic government. Do you think anything short of an outright Israeli defeat will meaningfully affect the U.S. in the region? U.S. efforts in the region? Well, U.S. efforts in the region, for example, include oil. So also shipping lanes. I mean, you can have a disruption of shipping lanes, logistics, oil prices will all be affected. Stock market will be affected because war in a macro sense affects the stock market usually. Bitcoin went down, not a lot, but Bitcoin would be up at like 115, 120 if we didn't have the war. It was already on its route to that, but the macro still affects Bitcoin to bring it down at least somewhat. Just because usually war is something that brings markets down. Here's Trump in 2019. The United States spent $8 trillion fighting the policies in the Middle East. Many of our soldiers died or badly wounded. Millions have died on that other side. Going to the Middle East is the worst decision ever made. And now Trump, of course, is failing. And Tucker calling him out on this was absolutely correct. Somebody says Mossad headquarters has been hit. Is that accurate or is that not true? All the Mossad is already in Tehran, so it's not going to work. That's pretty funny. This looks fake. I can't imagine that there's a giant building that just has the name Mossad on it. I mean, it could be real. This kind of looks fake. But see, when war is happening, you get the information warfare floods with all kinds of fake stuff on purpose. So who knows if that's real? It's probably not. Is there one giant building that just has the word Mossad with one S on it? That's funny, actually. So I'm trying to see exactly what the latest is. Let's see what the left is saying so we can go get a leftist approach. What's the Democratic mouthpiece saying? Iran could resort to unconventionals. Is Israel losing? Now, like I said, Israel could strategically be appearing to be weak to help secure U.S. support. That might be part of their strategy. Bunker busting missiles shake faith in the safety of Israel. Jerusalem built a case for war. USA didn't buy into their case. Netanyahu, we could strategically take out Ayatollah. Supposedly Trump said no to that. Regime change emerges as an unstated goal. This might have been the plan all along. Most of this kind of stuff, as I think some of the super chatters and commenters have noted, war and this kind of stuff is usually not organic. It's usually planned out way ahead of time. So if regime change was the plan all along, then this might be what was planned all along. This says Trump unconvinced, but now, of course, Trump now sounds like he's ready for U.S. involvement. Tucker, this conflict could end Trump's presidency and the American empire. Let's see what he says to Bannon.
Choosing a big box of award-winning Franzia wine for less?
Wine moms!
Smart move. Hiding an engagement ring in your girlfriend's lasagna?
Hold on.
Dude, they know what we talk about.
Mouse.
The algorithmic tracking is on point because they know we'd make wine mom jokes. They're over here trying to appeal to the wine moms in the audience.
I actually really love Trump. I think he's a deeply humane, kind person. And I am saying this because I'm really afraid that my country's going to be further weakened by this. I think we're going to see the end of American empire, obviously. Other nations would like to see that, and this is a perfect way to scuttle the U.S.
Remember, Trump's whole platform was ending the American empire, not going to war. It's so typical of the whole neocon ethos, right?
That's America on the shoals of Iran. But it's also going to end, I believe, Trump's presidency and effectively end it. And so that's why I'm saying this.
What do you mean by that? That's coming from you. That's
you get. Look, I knew Bush. I knew George W. Bush. We had, family connections to Bush. I knew Bush personally. I still see Bush sometimes, and of course, he hates me, and he does because I criticized him on Iraq, and that war is the sum total, from a historical perspective, of his administration. But I knew him, and he had all kinds of plans for the things that he wanted to do. But once domestically,
right,
to improve the country.
Right.
And you may agree or disagree, but like in his mind, he wasn't just about the invasion of Iraq in March of 2000.
no. He was going to redo Social Security. He had all
100%.
all types of. He was going to take care of the entitlements issue.
And he really thought it was going to work.
Yep.
And you could laugh at that or whatever, but the point is, the second you get enmeshed in a real war, not a fake, let's go bomb the villagers and declare success, though we don't even have a good track record. Like, why are the Houthis still there?
No,
I mean, there's a whole other question,
right,
which is how prepared.
Do you notice that? So at one point, Bannon had like just some icons behind him, and now he's got that Roman Catholic Jesus back there. Yeah, let's see. We had a good super chat question. Where'd it go? Raziel 00300 $5. I hope Iran is ready for Skittles. Well, they already have they're the biggest trans hub in the world, so they're already primed for it. But I get your point, right? Which is that whenever the U.S. gay invades a place, get ready for Skittles overload. You get baptized in Skittles, and the rainbow is forced down your throat. Chief Israel planner at Pentagon bashes state of Israel publicly. Day 5. USA officially joins war. Strikes are on the table. Iran supposedly is readying the bombs. Well, we are ripe for fake flag. But do we need fake flag if we're already in it? Like, we don't even need the fake flags now, right? If Trump's just going to immediately... If the tail wags the dog and Bibi tells Trump exactly what to do immediately, Trump just jumps to do what he's told. Mark, $10. Do you have any good resources on the Islamic Revolution of the Shah? Yes, everything that I just covered. Devil's game. I mean, guys, I've been holding up books the entire time. Was the Shah working for more independence? Did he have bad opinions about American influence? Well, we just covered that. Did you not see? I'm not being rude, but like, did you not watch the last 10 minutes? I read you the articles where publicly he was calling America, excuse me, the Shah was a tool of British intelligence and the CIA. Corey, $5. In your old top 10 video, you said read Perfectibilis by Terry Melanson. Yeah, that's a classic on the Illuminati, the actual Illuminati. What I'm learning so far, thanks to you, is the ideas that we think are new are actually very old. Yes, that's exactly correct. What is Lord Voldemort reporting? Let's see. World on edge as Trump exits Situation Room. After demanding unconditional surrender, MAGA civil war erupts over this issue. And I agree with Tucker and Lord Voldemort. This is wrong. Wrong route. Wrong approach. Stephen Cook, $5. It's interesting that Trump and Putin talked on Saturday, and then last night Kiev got BOMB. Then today Russia said they will not support Iran. This is what I had a dinner with Jim Jatras, and Jim said that that's exactly what would happen. He said that Russia would not want Iran to escalate. So that might be a positive sign. And that's basically what Jim Jatras was saying. It's Rex, $10. Jay, what is your take on Russia and Dugin? I've talked about this many times. I think Dugin is an insightful thinker and philosopher and geopolitical person. I disagree with his Gnostic views, and I've said that probably 50 times. Do you think that the hubris to start World War III with a decaying West, having to fight it, would cause the downfall of these powers that think that they would win? It could be a trap. You know, the West has a history of baiting other places into prolonged engagements that exhaust them. That's an old trick that the British imperial elites did. It's the trick that Brzezinski did to the Soviets, and it worked. It could be a trick that the U.S. has done with Putin in the Ukraine to, in long term, so to speak, exhaust. That's a classic warfare strategy. Bait people into unwinnable conflicts. They exhaust themselves after 10 years of fighting or something like that. So it could be.